1 week after the deadline, New York State reached an agreement on a $212 billion budget. It has funding for everything from schools to rent relief and help for buses struggling amid the pandemic.
But it comes at a cost. The budget also has $4 billion in tax increases. Joining us now with details on what's in the budget, Queens State Senator and Deputy Majority Leader, Senator Michael Gianaris. Good morning, Senator.
Good morning, guys. Good morning. Let's go Mets today. We got the home opener.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah, we're all pulling for them for sure. Talking about the budget, for all the good that's in it, there's some bad also when you consider the tax hikes for New Yorkers who are earning $1 million plus, who, by the way, many of them have left, or at least left during the pandemic. That's not really an incentive to bring them back.
Well, look, you make the most important point of all. I want everyone to understand that if you are not making more than $1 million every year, you are not going to be seeing a tax hike. In fact, you're probably going to be seeing a tax cut because we do have a middle-class tax cut built into this budget as well. As for the people that are making that much, all indicators are that over the last year, while so many people lost their jobs and had a difficult time surviving economically, that they did very well. The wealthy got even wealthier over the last year. So I don't think it's unfair to say to them, we had a rough time. This is a historical economic calamity. You've done well over the last year. How about you chip in some more so that we can recover as fast as possible and get ourselves back on our feet? That's what we're doing. All the data historically shows that you lose a lot more people from a state when you're not providing the services they expect than if you're taxing the very wealthy at an increase of less than 1%. And so if our schools aren't funded well, if people can't pay their rent, if our small businesses are failing, that's going to drive more people out of the state than this nominal tax hike on the wealthy.
The question by so many people, if we're getting federal help, though, why all these different additions of raising taxes if we're getting federal help?
What the federal help did, I'm sorry, Larry, what the federal help did was plug the hole that we had. We had a massive deficit because we had to make cuts over the last year just to deal with the lack of income coming into the state. So fine, the federal government filled that hole, but that didn't do anything to satisfy the requirements to fund our schools properly, to provide people with rent relief over the last year. We have $1 billion in there to help small businesses get grants to survive the difficulty that they have had. Those are all things on top of what a normal budget year would provide. And if we didn't find the revenue to do that, we couldn't do those extra things. Never mind the fact that the federal government's help is a one-time deal. So if we use that money to plug the holes in the budget, what do we do next year when that money's not there? One way or the other, we have to find revenue that would be recurring on an ongoing basis. So that's what we did.
Well, I hope you find it because they may be down in Florida and not coming back. You know, there's a new survey out done by the real estate company CBRE. Hundreds of thousands have moved from our area. And Senator Gianaris, plenty from your neighborhood as well. 26,000 people from Queens, working class Queens, moved over 100 miles away, and who knows if they're going to come back. You're talking about crime, homelessness, and taxes are on their mind. I mean, it's almost like you guys are tone deaf up in Albany.
Oh, no, quite the contrary. I need you to listen to what I was just saying. You're making my point. Those 26,000 people in Queens, they are not earning over $1 million a year. What we're trying to do for them is make sure that they have something to come back to, that they have a theater district that's thriving, that they have restaurants that are open, that they won't have problems paying their rent or sending their kids to good schools. If we didn't do what we did, there would be no reason for those people to come back. And that's what I was talking about earlier. All the historical data shows you don't lose more people by taxing the wealthy. You lose more people by not providing the services that people expect. And if you don't give them something to come back for, then they won't.
Okay,
but what we want to do is make sure that people...
We'll see about that next year, won't we? We'll see if people come back to be taxed more. But also, you're giving...
Well, Rosanna, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but let me just correct you. The people you're talking about are not being taxed more. They will
I don't know anybody who's really rich who wants to pay more in taxes. Even Warren Buffett doesn't pay more in taxes. He says he wants to.
I don't know people who are working class who want to live in a place that doesn't have a thriving small business community or a thriving arts district or good schools, and that's what we're providing.
Well, you talk about
sure
schools,
you're giving... The money are providing a community for people to come back to.
Senator, you're talking about schools. You're giving $3 billion more to schools. Is it going to wind up in the classroom or in the teachers' union pocket?
It's absolutely going to wind up in the classroom. This is to satisfy a court decision that was rendered over a decade ago that said in New York State we are underfunding our schools in an unconstitutional manner. And the state ignored that obligation for over a decade. We are finally taking steps to make sure that the classrooms actually see that money and the schools get what they deserve.
But how do you make sure that certain school systems who have the most vulnerable children in them and have the least resources actually get the money and it's not allocated somewhere else?
It's a great question, and that money is specifically dedicated through a formula that goes to the neediest schools. And so that is what the courts found, that the money had to go to the needy school districts. They were the ones who were getting the short end of the stick for too long, and that money's going through a formula that makes sure that that goes where it's supposed to.
And those who are struggling with their rent or mortgages, what portion of the pie do they get?
They get an over $2 billion rent relief program for people that have displayed a hardship paying their rent over the last year due to the economic problems associated with the pandemic. They can apply to get their rent arrears taken care of. The estimates are that it was roughly a $2.3 billion problem, and that's what we allocated for it. So we have had some problems in the past trying to get rent relief out the door. The application process was a little burdensome, so hopefully that was dealt with, but the money will be there.
So Governor Cuomo in the past has, been reported to be the voice of reason, holding off taxes in Albany. What kind of role did he play this year while he's been under fire from every which way?
He had to agree to the budget, and he did agree to what we did. But this final budget product bore a very close similarity to what we call our one-house budget proposals, what the Senate and the Assembly proposed a couple of weeks back. So I think the legislative priorities were seen through to the end. Why that was more the case? Because the governor's distracted, or because we now have obtained these supermajorities in both houses? I think there's a lot of factors involved, but we're pleased with the result. We think we finally dealt with a lot of these problems that have been nagging New Yorkers for many years.
So the governor did not push back at all against all these tax increases?
In the end, he's signing the documents. So what he would have preferred, I guess he had his executive budget proposal at the beginning of the year. It did not include a lot of those revenue increases that we had proposed. And so it did end up bearing a much greater similarity to the legislative proposals than the original executive proposal. Where
do you stand on Cuomo and impeachment investigation, whether or not he should resign, given this latest incident even?
Yeah, I've called for his resignation going back about a month now when the reports first surfaced. Much of the Senate has, our Senate leader has, obviously our federal leadership has as well, from Senator Schumer and Senator Gillibrand on through our congressional delegation. So these are very serious claims. I honor the women who've come forward because it's not an easy thing to do. There are investigations undergoing. The decision on impeachment initially rests with the Assembly. And they are conducting their own investigation. In the Senate, we would have a trial if the Assembly did impeach. It's similar to the way the federal government works, where Congress impeaches and the Senate conducts the trial. And so our role as the Senate now is to wait and see if impeachment articles are sent to us.
Well, State Senator, it's always nice to have you on Good Day New York. And, we agree to disagree sometimes, and that's what makes us a great, New York town.
That's right. That's what makes us New Yorkers, Rosanna. We're in it.
We're passionate about where we live, aren't we?
Absolutely.
Okay. State Senator Michael Gianaris, thank you so much.